Chosen one. The instant you said yes, heaven stood still. Time itself bowed to your surrender. The wind carried your obedience like incense, and two radiant angels descended, swift as lightning, sure as destiny bearing your name carved into flame. They are not here by accident. They were sent because you finally aligned your will with heaven's. You may have thought it was just another prayer, another late-night whisper of exhaustion, but heaven heard a covenant. That small, trembling yes thundered through eternity like a war cry. The light you carry has drawn divine attention, and now the unseen realm has shifted in your favor. There was a season when you wondered if God had forgotten you. You knocked and heard no answer. You asked and saw no sign. The world told you to move on, to stop expecting miracles, but something in your spirit refused to quit. That persistence was not stubbornness. It was prophecy. The silence was not rejection. It was incubation. Heaven was waiting for this exact yes. And the moment it came, angels moved. One carries a sword of divine fire, the other a scroll sealed in gold. They have been watching from afar, waiting for this alignment. Now they stand beside you, invisible yet undeniable, guarding your next steps. There was once another chosen one, long before your time. She walked through years of delay, mocked for believing a promise no one else could see. But the day she surrendered, saying quietly, "Let it be as you will," the very air around her shifted. She later testified that peace entered the room, like dawn breaking through glass. Heaven always moves at the speed of surrender. So does your story. You are walking into a season where the unseen becomes tangible. You will feel guidance in your steps, clarity in your choices, and protection that no enemy can penetrate. When fear tries to whisper, remember, the very atmosphere around you has changed. According to what is revealed in the book of Nahum, chapter 1, verse 7, "The Lord is good, a refuge in trouble. He cares for those who trust in him." That is your anchor tonight. The two angels have not come to impress you. They have come to empower you. They move through your obedience, strengthening what remains, rekindling what the world tried to snuff out. Their arrival is the divine response to your surrender. Think of your soul as a sleeping city. For a long time, its gates were closed, streets empty, lamps dark. But when you said yes, the city awoke. Windows flew open, light spilled into alleys, and bells began to ring. The two angels are like royal heralds entering those gates, announcing that the King has returned to reign in your life. Every trial you endured, every delay, every heartbreak, it all built the altar that your yes now ignites. And from that fire rises purpose, pure and unstoppable. In the coming days, you will notice subtle confirmations, peace where anxiety used to live, provision that appears from unexpected places, words that reach you at perfect timing. Those are footprints of angels, evidence that heaven has stepped into your story. Let this truth settle deep within you. Your surrender is not weakness. It is the greatest act of power you could ever offer. It is the gate through which miracles march. Now, take this moment to acknowledge what has begun. Whisper again, not out of fear, but out of trust, "I am ready." That simple declaration keeps heaven's flow open. And when you finish this message, If something inside you stirs with recognition, seal it with a prophetic number. Type 777 inches. The comments, a silent signal to heaven that you remain in agreement. If this word resonated with your spirit, pause and share it forward. Someone else's breakthrough may be waiting on your obedience to spread what you've received. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to stay aligned with every future message written for those who walk in divine purpose. 2 angels have arrived. The season has begun. Heaven has recorded your yes. Oh, the air carries your new name, now redeemed, strengthened, sent. What once chained you has fallen silent. For authority has shifted. You are no longer surviving. You are stepping into divine momentum. Even the winds recognize it. Creation leans toward your obedience. Every trembling step becomes a trumpet blast, declaring, "The chosen has awakened." Heaven moves in rhythm with your heartbeat now, purpose unfolding with every breath. Your yes echoes through realms unseen, unlocking doors crafted before your birth. You walk not alone, but accompanied by light, guided by faith, and guarded by the promise that no darkness can unmake. You remember the first time you felt that whisper inside, soft, steady, persistent. It was not thunder, not a vision written in clouds, but a quiet stirring that would not leave. The divine had been calling you long before you recognized the sound. You tried to dismiss it as imagination, but it followed you through every season, through noise and silence, through laughter and tears. In your youth, you mistook it for restlessness. Later, for longing. It grew louder each time you tried to silence it with distractions or ambition. Every new plan you made without heaven's guidance eventually unraveled, not as punishment, but as mercy, an invitation to listen again. This is the divine whisper, remembered the sound that will not let you settle for less than what you were born to become. It speaks differently to everyone. For some, it comes in the stillness of dawn. For others, in the exhaustion of midnight. But for the chosen, it always carries the same essence. Come higher. The whisper does not compete with chaos. It waits until your soul quiets enough to hear. That's why some doors closed abruptly. Why certain relationships ended without explanation. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. Heaven was clearing the frequency so you could finally distinguish the voice meant for you. There was a man once, a chosen one, who worked in obscurity. He had talent, but little recognition. Each time he tried to build something without divine timing, it crumbled. One night, weary and frustrated, he prayed not for success, but for understanding. That night, in silence, he felt peace settle over him like a warm blanket. No voice, no vision, just a knowing. From that day forward, he stopped chasing approval and started listening. Within months, what he couldn't force for years came naturally. Heaven's whisper will never shout. It waits to be obeyed. The voice you've been hearing lately, the gentle nudge, the impression that something new is near, is not coincidence. It is the same voice that spoke over the waters in Genesis, now speaking inside you. You may not have recognized it at first, but your spirit has always known its sound. When the whisper calls you, it often leads into stillness before revelation. The pause is not punishment, it's preparation. The space between command and clarity is sacred. That's where faith grows legs, where obedience matures. You are learning to recognize the difference between noise and guidance. Noise drains you. Guidance anchors you. Noise demandes urgency. Guidance invite peace. You are not being led by confusion anymore. You are being tuned. Heaven is fine adjusting your frequency until your heart and His will beat in unison. As written in the book of Hosea, chapter 2, verse 14, "Therefore, I will allure her, I will lead her out into the wilderness, and speak tenderly to her heart." That verse is not about distance, it is about intimacy. The wilderness is not where you are lost, it's where distractions die, so revelation can live. Heaven often isolates what it intends to elevate. This is why your recent silence has felt both heavy and holy. You've been surrounded by people, yet strangely alone. That is not loneliness, it is consecration. The whisper has separated you from what cannot go where you are being sent. There will come a moment when the whisper turns into a command, clear, unmistakable. You will know exactly what to do next. It may not make logical sense, but it will resonate deeper than reason. When that happens, obey quickly. Every delay dilutes revelation. Your obedience will open new alignments, divine appointments, and timely provision. You will look back on this quiet season and realize that what you thought was emptiness was actually the sound of heaven building inside you. For now, breathe. Listen. You are learning the sacred art of hearing. The same whisper that called you once is calling again. Not to take from you, but to transform you. In this stillness, heaven is painting new directions on the canvas of your heart. You are remembering what you once knew before the world made you forget. That your steps are guided, your path pre-written, your destiny alive. The whisper that began as a question has now become a vow. You will follow where He leads. The whisper does not fade, it deepens. Each breath you take now carries direction. Each silence hides instruction. You are not wandering anymore. You are walking inside a divine conversation that never ends. Even when words fail, the whisper remains. It curls through your thoughts like sunlight through leaves, gentle, unhurried, certain. Heaven is still speaking. You are still becoming. The two angels have arrived. You can sense it, even if your eyes cannot see them. The air feels charged, like the pause before thunder, like dawn, right before it splits the sky, open with gold. They have been assigned to you, each with a distinct purpose, both carrying the fragrance of obedience. The first moment they entered, your atmosphere changed. You couldn't explain it, but something in the spiritual realm adjusted, heaviness lifted, confusion cleared, and peace wrapped around you like armor. Heaven never sends angels without intention. Their appearance always announces movement. The first one stands tall with eyes like tempered fire. Strength radiates from his presence. He is the embodiment of stability, the whisper of courage when your heart trembles. His hands, though unseen, steady your path. The second moves, quieter, like wind through trees. Purpose follows wherever he walks. When you dream, when you plan, when divine timing draws near, it is he who ensures that everything aligns. There was a time when angels seemed like distant myths, stories for ancient days. But look closer now. Evidence surrounds you. The impossible is beginning to bend. The timing of events you could never orchestrate yourself is aligning perfectly. That is how heaven works. It never announces loudly. It confirms quietly. according to what is revealed in the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 11. For he will command his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. And this verse is not metaphorical tonight. It is literal over you. The angels are not passive watchers. They are active guardians. One battles unseen forces that try to distort your clarity, while the other guards your destiny's schedule. They make sure what belongs to you is not stolen. What is promised to you is not delayed. You might have noticed the strange stillness in your days lately. Plans slowing down, emotions shifting, unexpected peace amid uncertainty. That's what happens when heaven reorganizes your life. What felt like interruption is actually coordination. The angels are aligning details, moving people, preparing divine appointments you haven't even imagined. One of them carries the sound of your faith. Each time you speak words of trust instead of fear, his strength increases. The other carries the blueprint of your future. And every time you obey a small instruction, his steps grow swifter. Together, they weave obedience and destiny into one unbreakable thread. Imagine a battlefield, unseen light clashing against shadow, not with swords of steel, but with sound and faith. When you chose obedience, you didn't just say yes to peace, you said yes to war on your behalf. The angels took their positions the moment you surrendered. There was a chosen one, once a young man marked by calling, but paralyzed by fear. One night, as he prayed under open sky, he felt something like heat behind him. He turned and saw nothing, yet every hair on his skin rose. In that instant, the atmosphere felt alive. He knew he wasn't alone. That was the first night he slept without nightmares. Years later, he said, I never saw the angels, but I lived as though they were always near, and they were. Ember, so it is with you. Their nearness may not be visible, but its fruit is unmistakable clarity, courage, calm. You will walk through places that once drained you and find yourself unshaken. You will face tasks that used to intimidate you and discover fresh strength. That's not coincidence, that's reinforcement. Even your words have changed. You speak slower, with weight, as though heaven echoes after every sentence. Because it does. The angels carry your words like arrows, sending them straight into the future to prepare what you will soon walk into. When you wake tomorrow, pause. Whisper gratitude for unseen guardians. Ask that your steps stay synchronized with heaven's rhythm. Their wings may be invisible, but their presence is real, woven into the air you breathe. Type Selah below. It means pause, and let this truth sink into your spirit. A sacred word, an ancient breath between heaven and earth, a way of saying, I hear, I receive, I rest in this revelation. Remember this, angels do not follow popularity or emotion. They follow assignment. And tonight, your name is written across their orders. The two who have come to you are not temporary. They will remain until your mission is complete, until every seed of destiny in you has blossomed into impact. So walk forward now, not afraid, not uncertain. The unseen is already fighting for the seen. Heaven has surrounded you. The angels do not depart at dawn. They linger. Their watch continues as you move. Speak and breathe. Every ordinary moment now carries extraordinary protection, evidence that heaven's covenant over you remains unbroken, alive and active. Every weight you carried was never random. Each burden had a language heaven understood. Each tear was a prayer translated into action. What you called pain, heaven called prophecy. The pressure you endured was shaping you for purpose long before you understood the reason behind it. There were seasons when it felt like you were being buried under disappointment, yet in truth, you were being planted. The soil was heavy, dark, and silent, but necessary. Seeds only break open in darkness. Your loneliness was not punishment, it was cultivation. You were being rooted deep so that your destiny could grow tall. You often wondered, why so much delay? Why so much loss? But delay was discipline. God was not denying you, He was developing you. Every "not yet" from heaven was the sound of divine timing, protecting you from what was too small for your purpose. There was a chosen one once, a woman with a voice meant to awaken generations. But she could not see it then. She faced betrayal, bankruptcy, illness, and silence. People left when she needed them most. She thought it was the end of everything. But one night, when all she had left was faith, she whispered, "Use this, Lord." That simple surrender transformed every wound into wisdom. Her story became a lantern for others, still walking through the same night she once survived. You are walking that same pattern now. The truth is, your pain trained you. You learned discernment through disappointment, patience through waiting, and strength through breaking. Heaven was refining your character, not rejecting your calling. What you call the hardest season was actually heaven's classroom. Every closed door taught you to hear differently. Every betrayal showed you who you no longer needed to depend on. Every delay taught you that timing is sacred. This is why you carry an authority others cannot imitate you, paid for it with tears, endurance, and faith. Heaven speaks through the book of Romans, chapter 5, verses 3 and 4. We glory in tribulations also, knowing that tribulation worketh patience, and patience experience, and experience hope. And you are living proof of that scripture. Your trials were not wasted. They built a foundation strong enough to carry the glory that is coming next. Sometimes heaven allows heaviness not to crush you, but to prove what you carry. Diamonds form under pressure, not comfort. Gold is purified in fire, not ease. You are not fragile, you are forged. There were nights when you cried yourself to sleep, thinking no one noticed, but heaven counted every tear. Each one watered the future you are now about to step into. Angels recorded your endurance, not your failures. The ache you felt was sacred. It was evidence that your heart was still alive and willing to trust even when it didn't understand. Look back for a moment, not in regret, but in revelation. Can you see it now? Every closed door led to a higher one. Every heartbreak removed what couldn't handle your next level. Every detour was divine choreography. You weren't losing, you were being aligned. If you had received what you prayed for too early, it might have destroyed you. But now you are ready. The strength you gained in waiting is the very strength that will sustain the promise when it arrives. You no longer depend on applause or validation. Your roots go deeper. The same storms that once threatened to break you now serve as proof that you cannot be shaken. Pain was your tutor, not your enemy. It taught you what peace really means. It stripped away illusions and made space for authenticity. When others saw you isolated, heaven saw you incubated. When they saw a setback, heaven saw strategy, and now, the very things that once made you question God will become the evidence of His faithfulness. You will look back and realize you were never abandoned. You were being prepared for impact. The two angels that stand beside you now understand every ounce of what you endured. They did not intervene then because you were in training. But now, they carry the authority to lift what once crushed you. Your strength has been recognized, and heaven has upgraded your assignment. Do not despise your scars. They are the fingerprints of grace. They tell the story of a warrior who refused to give up. Each scar glows faintly in the spirit, marking you as one who has survived the refining fire. You are not entering your promise as the same person who once prayed for it. You have matured, transformed, and become someone who can hold the weight of glory with humility. The pain was prophecy, and the prophecy has now been fulfilled in you. The season of breaking has ended. The season of building has begun. Heaven's seal has now settled over your life. It is invisible to the world, but unmistakable in the spirit. When you said your final yes, heaven did not just hear it, responded with a mark, a divine recognition that distinguishes you from the crowd. You are not defined by circumstance anymore. You are defined by covenant. The angels who walk beside you carry that seal. It is not written in ink or carved into stone. It glows within your spirit. When you step into places that once rejected you, the atmosphere itself will shift. People will not understand why they sense peace when you arrive, or why they suddenly speak gentler when you stand before them. It's the mark of divine ownership. Once, your name was whispered in accusation by darkness. Now, it is spoken with reverence in heaven. You carry a signature from the throne itself, a seal that says, "This one belongs to me." You did not earn it. You accepted it. The moment you surrendered, heaven took record. The scroll of your destiny was reopened, and the ink of mercy wrote over every failed chapter. Now, when the enemy looks for evidence to accuse you, all he sees is light. The ancient words recorded in the book of Ephesians, chapter 1, verse 13, having believed, you were marked in him with a seal, the promised Holy Spirit. No, that seal is not decorative, it is protective. It covers you when storms rise, when false words fly, when fear tries to creep back in. It whispers to every power of darkness, you may touch others, but not this one. End of There was once a chosen one who tried to hide her calling. She wanted normalcy, anonymity, but the seal of heaven refused to fade. Each time she tried to blend in, doors would open she didn't even knock on. People she never met would tell her, you carry something different. The mark cannot be hidden. It reveals itself in the light of obedience. The same is true for you now. That mark will draw both favor and responsibility. You will notice that certain environments feel uncomfortable, not because you don't belong, but because your light exposes what was meant to stay hidden. Do not shrink. Do not apologize. You were sealed to shine. The angels guarding you will ensure that no counterfeit blessing imitates your true calling. Many opportunities will come, some glittering, some urgent, but only those that carry peace will carry permission. Your seal will recognize authenticity. It vibrates in harmony with heaven's will. If something causes confusion, it is not yours. This seal also shifts how heaven responds to your voice. When you pray now, heaven does not hear a beggar, it hears an ambassador. Your words carry weight. You speak not from desperation, but from divine authority. Even silence becomes intercession. Even rest becomes warfare. And so, as this truth begins to settle in you, imagine this. Your life is now a scroll sealed with heaven's insignia, waiting to be read by generations to come. Each act of kindness, each moment of faith, each time you chose obedience over comfort, those are the words written upon it. There is beauty in realizing that you don't have to strive anymore. You don't have to prove your worth to be seen. You already wear heaven's approval. It's in your laughter after tears, in your resilience after rejection, in your courage to believe again. If your heart feels this truth stirring a quiet warmth, a recognition of belonging, then take a moment to let it sink in. This is not just another message. This is remembrance. Heaven is reminding you who you are and whose you are. So, as this revelation rests upon you, imagine yourself standing at the edge of an endless sea. The sky reflects in waves of gold, the air still, the light gentle. Heaven whispers, will you carry this seal into the world? Will you let it speak through your life? And if your soul whispers yes, let that be enough. But if you wish to mark this moment in the natural, to echo what heaven has sealed in the unseen, then let your action become a reflection of agreement. Maybe it's the small motion of your hand, pressing a like as if lighting a candle before heaven, or perhaps the quiet decision to share this message, like passing a flame to another soul, walking through shadow. And if your heart desires to stay near this same river of revelation, then subscribe not to a channel, but to a calling. Each gesture becomes an echo in eternity, the light of your agreement rising like morning smoke over a mountain altar. The seal is upon you. Walk as one known by heaven. When you finally surrendered, heaven heard more than words. It heard alignment. The sound of your surrender became a melody the angels recognized, and they moved swiftly, carrying your obedience like a torch through unseen corridors. That single act, quiet, unseen, humble, shifted everything. You didn't know it then, but the heavens trembled when you stopped running. The delay broke. The resistance loosened, and what was once blocked began to flow. You thought surrender was the end of control, but in truth, it was the beginning of command. Command in the Spirit, where heaven's authority now works through you. Surrender is not collapse, it is clarity. It is when you finally stop wrestling long enough for God to guide your hands. You laid down striving, and He placed strategy in your palms. The noise of your fear gave way to the symphony of divine timing. There was once a chosen one, a man who spent years fighting what God asked him to do. Each time he ran, the storms grew louder. His pride kept him afloat for a while, but exhaustion came like a tide. One night, he stopped fighting. He whispered, "If this is what you want, I'm done resisting." That night, the sea calmed. From then on, every step he took carried favor. Every decision carried peace. That is what happens when surrender becomes your strength. The angels remember that moment in you. They were waiting for it, the stillness after struggle. Heaven had always been ready, but heaven waits for consent. It never forces. It invites. The instant you said, "I'm ready," divine machinery began to turn. Connections aligned. Old chains fell soundlessly, and unseen hands began to build what you could never construct alone. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And if this scripture is not theory, it is blueprint. When you finally trusted, you stopped leaning on understanding and started walking by revelation. That is why things that once terrified you now feel strangely peaceful. You have shifted from striving to flowing. Surrender looks different on everyone. For some, it is letting go of control. For others, it is forgiving where bitterness once lived. For you, it was choosing obedience over opinion, destiny over doubt. You have crossed a threshold that few recognize until they've tasted both resistance and rest. And here's the mystery when you surrender. Heaven does not take your freedom, it multiplies it. The more you yield, the stronger you become, the smaller your ego becomes, the larger your impact grows. Surrender is not the loss of power, it is the proper placement of it. The angels assigned to you move freely now because your resistance has ceased. They are no longer hindered by your fear or hesitation. Every yes you give becomes a command. They obey. They respond not to emotion, but to obedience. And obedience is now your native language. You will begin to feel moments of deep calm in unexpected hours, a peace that interrupts chaos, a certainty that overrides confusion. That's not apathy, that's divine stillness. It means the war within you has ended. The night you surrendered, heaven wrote it down, and that record still stands, a moment of holy exchange. You laid down control, and God laid upon you authority. You lost nothing. You gained access. Even now, heaven leans close, listening to how you move forward. There will be new instructions, gentle but specific. Follow them quickly. The days ahead are not about speed, but sensitivity. Surrender opened the door. Now obedience will keep it open. So let this truth anchor you. Surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's what separates those who wander from those who walk in purpose. And if something inside you feels the weight of this word, if your spirit stirs with quiet recognition, then mark this moment in the way heaven marks alignment. Type 555 below. It is more than a number. It is a declaration in code. It means, I release control and embrace divine order. It is not superstition. It is a symbolic response, a way of saying, my life is no longer mine alone. Let this be your silent act of faith. Not loud, not forced, just honest. Heaven knows sincerity when it sees it. You are no longer the one who fights divine direction. You are the one heaven can trust to move when called. The moment you surrendered, you didn't lose, you were found. The first angel stands near you now, the messenger of strength. His presence is not loud or dazzling, it is steady, ancient, familiar. When he moves, the air itself thickens with quiet authority. You may not see his form, but you feel the shift. The trembling that once filled your chest is replaced by calm. He was there during your weakest hours, standing unseen at the corners of your exhaustion. Every time you whispered, I can't anymore, he whispered back, you can. That voice you thought was resilience was actually his. Strength has never been an accident in your life. It has always been assistance. This angel carries something different from all others. He is heaven's embodiment of endurance, sent to awaken power that suffering once buried. He does not fight your battles for you, he fights them through you. When you stand your ground after a blow that should have broken you, that is him, lending you the spine of eternity. He is not gentle with fear. The moment you start shrinking, he pushes. He will place you in moments where courage becomes your only language, because he knows potential never grows in comfort. You will find yourself doing things you never planned to do, speaking, building, deciding, not because you feel brave, but because you are accompanied. There was a chosen one before you, a young soldier who once asked for courage to face battle. But what heaven sent him was not ease, it sent him the messenger of strength. For days, the soldier faced nothing but silence and fear, until one morning he woke up with peace that made no sense. His heart was steady, his hands unshaken. Later he wrote, "Courage came, not as roar but as stillness." That stillness was the angel's doing, the same stillness you now carry. You have seen glimpses of this angel's work before, those times when you thought you'd collapse. But something invisible held you upright. It wasn't coincidence. Each breath that steadied you was borrowed strength. As the Lord said to his servant in the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 9, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Aufwand. That verse is not advice, it's description. It describes what happens when this angel stands beside you. Fear melts, courage ignites, and endurance becomes instinct. This angel does not arrive to make life easy. He comes to make you unbreakable. You will find that storms no longer shake you the way they once did. The same winds that used to throw you off course now propel you forward. The messenger of strength transforms every gust of opposition into movement. His presence is like iron hidden beneath velvet, unseen but undeniable. He fortifies the spirit quietly, molding you into someone the darkness no longer recognizes. Each morning you rise after battle. Heaven smiles, for the angel has done his work again. Sometimes he will lead you through seasons where you face resistance, not because you are wrong, but because you are right. You will question why pressure follows obedience. That's how he trains warriors, not in comfort, but in conviction. The heavier the calling, the stronger the carrier must become. Do not mistake weariness for weakness, even in fatigue. Strength breathes beneath your ribs. The angel does not remove your human limits, he refines them. You learn to rely less on adrenaline and more on anointing, less on reaction and more on resolve. Your hands may shake, but your faith will not. That is his signature strength that outlasts exhaustion. The messenger of strength writes his presence into your muscles, your voice, your endurance. You will feel it in conversations that require restraint, in choices that demand courage, in prayers that outlast the night, in the stillness of your next challenge. Remember, you are not drawing strength from yourself. You are drawing it from eternity. The same power that raised the sun from the grave now pulses within you through this divine companion. You are becoming what heaven saw when it first called your name: unyielding, radiant, resilient. The angel does not simply stand beside you, he mirrors you until you remember who you are. Every time fear knocks, strength answers. Every time doubt whispers, resolve rises. Every moment you stand when the world expects you to fall, heaven writes another line beside your name. Proven. You are not learning strength, you are remembering it. The messenger of strength is here to remind you of what was already placed within you before time began. So, walk forward now, not with arrogance, but with quiet assurance. The same God who sent you this angel is still watching. still guiding, still pouring power into every step. You have become what trials could not destroy, unshaken. The second angel steps forward, the guardian of purpose. His arrival is softer than the first, more like a fragrance than a sound, while the messenger of strength stands as fire. This one moves like light, bending through the unseen corners of your destiny. You may not feel his presence as power, but as precision, where the first angel teaches you how to endure. The second shows you why you endure. He carries the map of your life, the blueprint written before your birth. Each thread of it glows with intention. Nothing about you is random. The family you came from, the detours you hated, the talents you almost dismissed, they all connect in a pattern heaven designed long before you understood it. The guardian of purpose keeps that pattern safe. His work is to ensure that your destiny does not drift, that your promise does not expire. When confusion rises and you question if you've missed your chance, he whispers, alignment. You think it's intuition, but it's him. He rearranges opportunities, delays meetings, stirs restlessness when you begin to settle where you do not belong. His interruptions are not punishment, they are protection. There was once another chosen one, a poet who dreamed of changing lives through words. He tried to build his platform through cleverness, but doors kept closing. In his frustration, he stopped writing for a season. Yet, in those quiet days, a strange peace guarded his mind. Later, he realized that every closed door had saved him from compromise. When the right time came, his words carried a weight they never had before. That was the guardian's work, protecting purity of purpose until the moment was right. You too are being protected from premature exposure. The guardian of purpose will often delay what you think you're ready for because heaven knows that divine timing is a weapon. To arrive too early is to arrive unarmed. He ensures you are fully equipped before doors swing open. We find in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. That verse is the guardian's law. He moves by seasons, not seconds. He knows when the soil of opportunity is ready and when the ground is still hard. When you think you're stuck, he is often still planting beneath the surface. Sometimes his guidance comes disguised as discomfort. You lose interest in certain things, or people fade unexpectedly. That is not rejection, it is divine pruning. He is cutting away distractions that could choke your calling. The more focused your heart becomes, the more clearly you will sense him at work. This angel also guards your divine connections, the people ordained to walk with you for specific chapters. Some will appear suddenly, others will quietly exit. The guardian manages those transitions like a conductor leading an orchestra. Every entrance, every exit, every silence has a rhythm. When he moves, alignment replaces confusion. He also watches over your voice. Every time you are about to speak something destructive about yourself, he interrupts. You call it hesitation, but it's his shield. Words shape destiny, and he guards the atmosphere around your confession. He knows purpose must be protected not only from enemies, but also from self-sabotage. Even your mistakes are not wasted under his watch. He turns detours into training grounds, regret into wisdom. The very moments you thought ruined your path are repurposed into stepping stones. Under his guardianship, nothing is lost, everything is learned. And when the right season comes, you will sense acceleration. What took years will unfold in days, not because you forced it, but because the guardian finally says, "Now." He opens the locked doors, connects the waiting dots, and breathes wind into what once lay dormant. Do not rush him. His silence is strategy. Every delay hides a divine sequence being written in your favor. If he withholds something, it is because what's ahead requires a version of you that is still being built. The guardian of purpose will not let you wander endlessly. His job is to ensure that your destiny arrives exactly on time, neither early nor late. He carries patience like armor and wisdom like a sword. If you listen closely, you'll feel him even now, arranging thoughts, untangling confusion, aligning your heart with heaven's direction. The restlessness you feel is the signal that something is being adjusted, that your inner compass is turning true north again. And when you finally reach the next door of destiny, you will not need to force it open. The guardian of purpose will stand before it, smile quietly, and whisper, "You're ready now." No. The war you didn't see began the moment you aligned with heaven's plan. It wasn't loud. It started in whispers, in shifts you couldn't explain. The unseen realm trembled because obedience always provokes opposition. The darkness does not attack those who are lost. It attacks those who are found. When you said yes, light repositioned around you. And with that light came conflict. Not because you did something wrong, but because you finally did something right. The moment your purpose awakened, everything that once had permission to distract you lost access. And what cannot control you will always try to confuse you. The war is real, but it is not what it seems. You are not fighting for victory, you are fighting from it. The two angels at your side are proof of that. The messenger of strength guards your endurance, while the guardian of purpose shields your direction. Every fiery dart aimed at you falls before it reaches its mark, because heaven's defense system is already engaged. There are times when you feel sudden exhaustion, moments of heaviness that appear without cause. That is not simply fatigue, it is spiritual resistance. The atmosphere senses your rising authority, and darkness grows restless. Yet every wave that hits you only confirms that you're moving in the right direction. You are not losing ground, you are gaining revelation. Opposition is often disguised confirmation. The war you feel is not against you, it's around you. Because heaven is expanding your territory. It was written in the letter to the Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the powers, the rulers of darkness, and wickedness in high places. This is not poetic language, it is a map. It shows the real landscape of your struggle. You're not wrestling with coincidence, you're wrestling with consequence, the kind that follows divine awakening. You are not crazy for feeling tension where peace once lived. You are standing in a crossfire between two kingdoms. Every prayer you whisper releases light into that space, pushing back the chaos. Every act of faith becomes a sword, swung in silence. There was a chosen one who once thought the warfare meant God had left him. Everything he touched fell apart. His finances dried up. His friends turned cold. And his mind felt like a battlefield. But one night, in the middle of sleeplessness, a still voice said, "You're not being punished, you're being promoted." The next day, opportunities began to bloom out of nowhere. The war was not destruction, it was transition. So it is with you. The shaking does not mean you are falling apart. It means foundations are being tested. Heaven never builds on untested ground. You are learning that peace is not the absence of battle, but the presence of power within it. The angels assigned to you move quietly through this war. When you feel sudden peace mid-chaos, that is, them standing in front of you, intercepting what was meant to harm you. When words meant to wound lose their sting, it's because they caught the arrow mid-air. You may never see their hands, but you live beneath their defense. Your endurance in this unseen conflict is your offering. Every time you choose not to give up, heaven records victory. You are not outnumbered, you are outlasting. The enemy has one tactic left: distraction. If he can't stop your calling, he'll try to make you doubt it. That's why clarity is warfare. But remember, light never panics. The darkness will shout, but light only stands. It does not need to argue. It simply shines until shadow runs out of places to hide. You carry that same authority. You don't need to fight everything you feel. You just need to remain unshaken. There will be moments when the storm looks endless, when exhaustion feels like betrayal. But if you could see from heaven's view, you'd know this battle has an expiration date. Angels are already marching. Orders have already been given. Your persistence is prophecy. It declares that you will finish what was started. So when confusion rises or heaviness lingers, speak quietly but firmly into the atmosphere. Tell the darkness what heaven has already decided. You cannot have me. Type lux below. It is Latin for light, a word older than languages, a symbol that says, I will not bow to the storm, I will become the sunrise. Write it not as reaction, but as revelation, proof that you know who wins. You are not the victim of this war, you are its turning point. Every unseen battle is already bending toward your victory. Heaven does not send angels to watch it, sends them to win. And they are fighting with you even now. Your name has been written into the heavenly scrolls. The ink glows, alive and breathing. For heaven does not record in silence, it records in light. Each line carries the story of your obedience, your endurance, your resilience. You are not just remembered in heaven, you are recognized. The moment you chose surrender, heaven inscribed you not as a wanderer, but as one awakened to destiny. It is not a list of deeds that marks your name there. It is the posture of your heart. Heaven writes in the language of devotion, every yes a letter, every tear a punctuation of faith. While the world forgets easily, the throne never forgets a soul that stands when it could have fallen. There is something sacred about being written into eternity. It means that your story is not only yours, it's part of a tapestry stretching far beyond what your eyes can see. When you move, ripples form across generations. When you speak faith, echoes reach beyond your time. You may think you're small, but your obedience has already changed the geography of heaven's plan on earth. Heaven remembers names differently. The world writes names on trophies that fade. Heaven writes names on scrolls that never burn. What you build in obedience is immortal. When your name was etched there, it wasn't as a record of worthiness, it was as a declaration of belonging. The Spirit whispers, now, reminding you of this truth. You are not lost in the crowd. Your name is carved into eternal memory. The angels carry it in their songs. It shines when they speak of you. As found in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 5, he who overcomes shall be clothed in white. I will not blot out his name from the book, but confess him before my Father. These words are not merely promise, they are present reality. The garments of white are not only for the afterlife, they represent the purity of purpose you now walk in. Your story, marked by scars and surrender, is a testimony of triumph. There was a chosen one who once felt unseen. She served quietly, while others received applause. No spotlight, no recognition, just the faithful rhythm of unseen obedience. Years passed, and she wondered if heaven had forgotten. But one night, during prayer, she saw a vision, her name written in golden light, surrounded by songs of angels. She wept, realizing that though the world never noticed her, heaven always had. That's what the scrolls mean. They prove you were never invisible. And you, too, are known there. Every time you acted out of love instead of pride, heaven took note. Each time you forgave instead of fighting back, heaven wrote another line. When you stayed kind even in rejection, heaven turned the page and said, "Continue, this story still unfolds." No, you are not just in the book of life, you are in the story of purpose. Every step you take from here writes a continuation. The angels at your side ensure that no false word, no wound can erase what heaven has written. If you could see the heavenly record for just a moment, you would understand why peace follows you where fear used to live. Your name glows not because of perfection, but because of persistence. You endured, and heaven always honors endurance. Now imagine this, a vast library of light, each scroll resting on pillars of fire. Some scrolls are sealed, others still open, being written, and there, among them, yours. Angels pass by it and nod, recognizing the story of faith that still unfolds. You are not finished. Heaven is still writing, and as this revelation settles into your spirit, let it stir gratitude, not pride. Let it move you gently, not loudly. You are not asked to strive for more, but to walk as one already remembered. If your heart feels this, let your next action become worship, not obligation. Maybe it's the quiet act of liking this message, as though placing a soft hand over the page of your story, saying, "I see it. Lord, I receive it." Or perhaps it's to share, not to impress, but to extend, like a lantern carried through a dark field. Your sharing becomes a spark that finds another wandering soul. Heaven loves when light travels. And if your spirit longs to stay close to these whispers of remembrance, then let your subscription become more than a button. It becomes a vow to remain near truth, to keep your name in the rhythm of revelation. You are not forgotten, you are recorded. Your existence echoes in heaven's archive of purpose, a song still unfinished but forever divine. So breathe deeply. Chosen one, you are not just living a story, you are being written by the author himself. The shaking has begun. It is not destruction, it is construction. What feels like trembling beneath your feet is the rearrangement of foundations that could no longer carry the weight of what is coming. Heaven is not tearing your life apart, it is making room for what your next season requires. You've prayed for new levels, and new levels always demand new structures. The things that once sustained you are no longer enough. Grace evolves, and so must you. The shaking is heaven's way of revealing what was temporary and what is eternal. When earthquakes happen in the natural, they expose cracks that were invisible before. The same happens in the spirit. The pressure you feel now isn't meant to destroy you. It's revealing what needs reinforcement. Heaven never reveals weakness to shame you. It reveals it to strengthen you. There was a chosen one who once thought everything was falling apart. 1 week, she lost her job. Her friend betrayed her, and doors she thought were certain closed without warning. She asked, "God, what did I do wrong?" But heaven whispered, "Nothing. You outgrew the walls that once protected you." Within months, new opportunities rose. Deeper friendships formed, and peace that had felt impossible became her new atmosphere. What looked like collapse was actually calibration. That is what's happening now. You are being recalibrated. The shaking is not rejection, it's promotion in disguise. We find in the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 27, the words "once more" indicate the removing of what can be shaken, that is, created things, so that what cannot be shaken may remain. These words are not about destruction, but purification. God shakes not to ruin, but to refine. He removes what was never meant to last, so that only what carries his essence endures. You've noticed it lately, relationships fading, plans changing, comfort zones cracking. Heaven is not being cruel, it's being kind. You asked for clarity, and sometimes clarity comes as collapse. The walls that confined you must fall for vision to expand. This is why you feel both peace and chaos at once. Your spirit knows the shift is divine. Even while your emotions wrestle with uncertainty, that tension is holy. It's the proof that something eternal is forming within you. The angels beside you are not alarmed by the shaking they are assigned to it. The messenger of strength reinforces your resolve, while the guardian of purpose ensures that nothing essential is lost. Together, they oversee the reconstruction of your life, brick by brick. Promesse be promise. Every shaking in Scripture carried transformation. When the earth shook at Sinai, God's voice rewrote the law. When prison walls trembled for Paul and Silas, it birthed freedom. When the tomb quaked, resurrection broke through death. The pattern remains. Shaking precedes revelation. So do not fear what trembles. Listen instead to what it reveals. The sound beneath your feet is heaven's hammer, not hell's havoc. In the natural world, architects shake new structures during testing to ensure stability before approval. Heaven does the same. Before your next season, you are being tested not for punishment, but for confirmation. What shakes and falls was never meant to continue with you. What remains will be your unshakable core. You may feel the stretch in your faith, the unease in your plans, the release of control in areas you once held tightly. These are sacred signs that transformation is taking root, and soon, after the shaking subsides, you'll notice the silence that follows a silence not of absence, but of readiness. In that stillness, you will hear new instructions, see new doors, and feel a deeper peace that won't waver again. You will not recognize the old version of yourself because that version served its purpose. The shaking broke limits, stripped distractions, and unveiled your truest strength. You have learned to trust beyond evidence, to hope beyond reason, to love beyond convenience. The ground beneath you will stabilize again, but you will stand taller upon it. The cracks that once frightened you will become testimonies of divine reinforcement. Every tremor that once made you question will become a memory that proves his faithfulness. The shaking before the rising is not your undoing, it is your unveiling. When you look back one day, you will see it clearly. The trembling was never meant to harm you. It was heaven rearranging your story so that everything unstable could fall away, leaving only what was meant to last forever. So breathe through the shaking. Let go of what breaks away. The only things that remain are the things that were always eternal. Your calling, your faith, your light. You are standing in the holy tension between what was and what will be. And when the dust settles, you will not just survive, you will stand upon unshakable ground. You have waited faithfully, through silence and through storms. Now comes the confirmation, the sign that heaven promised to send. You have not been imagining the shifts, the gentle alignments, the sudden peace that feels too deep to explain. These are not coincidences. They are coordinates. Every detail has been divinely arranged to confirm that you are walking in the right direction. Heaven is not cruel. It does not whisper promises and then hide them. What it hides for your unveiling. The delay you endured was not a denial, it was preservation. Heaven was making sure that when your confirmation arrived, you would have the eyes to recognize it. The sign will not come with fireworks or applause. It will come quietly, in a way only your spirit can decode. Perhaps through a word spoken by someone unaware of its weight, or through a moment of stillness that feels like time pausing just for you. Heaven speaks subtly to those mature enough to listen. There was once a chosen one who begged for signs every day, but saw none. He thought God had grown silent. Then one morning, on an ordinary walk, a leaf fell and landed perfectly on the page of his open journal, right on a verse he had written weeks before. "Be still and know." He laughed through tears. It wasn't dramatic, but it was enough. He finally understood that heaven's confirmation is never for the mind, it's for the heart. The confirmation that is coming to you now will feel the same, personal, unmistakable, peaceful. It will not cause anxiety, it will anchor assurance. As revealed in the book of John, chapter 10, verse 27, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." That is your verse of recognition. The shepherd does not shout, he calls. The confirmation is not to impress you, but to remind you that he knows you by name. The angels at your side have already positioned the scene. The messenger of strength has steadied your heart to receive it, and the guardian of purpose has aligned circumstances so that when the moment comes, nothing can distort it. It will be simple, but sacred. You will know it's heaven because peace will accompany it. Fear counterfights urgency. Heaven brings rest. You won't have to chase the sign, it will meet you on the path of obedience. Some confirmations come through patterns, numbers, words, timing. Others through stillness that floods you with clarity. Do not doubt what brings peace. Heaven often whispers louder in quiet moments than in thunderous ones. In the coming days, stay sensitive. The confirmation may arrive through a conversation, a dream, or a divine coincidence that feels too exact to dismiss. When it happens, you will know without question that heaven has signed the page of your journey. And when it comes, do not boast, bow. For confirmation is not a medal, it's a message. It tells you that heaven has not only heard your prayers, but has begun their fulfillment. This sign will seal your next step. It will realign your confidence, refresh your focus, and remove the residue of doubt. You won't need to ask again. If you're on the right path, you'll simply know, and when that knowing settles in, mark the moment, not with words, but with worship. Let your response be quiet gratitude, the kind that says, I understand now. Lord, I trust you completely. If this resonates in your spirit, if something in you whispers, yes, this is my moment, then let heaven see your recognition in a simple act of faith. Type 888 below. It is the number of new beginnings, of divine cycles completed and renewal unfolding. It speaks of resurrection, restoration, and release. When you write it, let it not be superstition, but symbolism, a declaration that says, I receive what is confirmed. I step into what is prepared. The sign is near. The confirmation is not distant. It has already begun to form around you. Stay still. Stay aware. Stay expectant. Because when heaven sends its confirmation, even the wind will seem to pause to listen. The number 888 carries more than repetition. It carries resurrection. It represents the cycle where endings become openings, where the night folds into dawn, and grace begins again without apology. In Hebrew, pattern, 8 means new creation. 888 means fullness multiplied. When you write it, you aren't wishing, you're aligning with heaven's rhythm of restoration and endless renewal. So let 888 be your silent song of rebirth, your acknowledgement that the old has completed its circle, and a divine beginning now unfolds whole, radiant, and irreversible. The mantle of fire descends quietly. It does not announce itself with spectacle, but with certainty. One moment you are ordinary, and the next, you are aware of heaven breathing through you, aware of a strength that is not your own. This is not imagination, this is inheritance. The angels who have walked beside you now bring something they were commanded to deliver from the beginning. The mantle, fire, has always been heaven's language of transformation. It refines, illuminates, and empowers. When it falls, it does not consume you. It consumes everything that cannot continue with you. The mantle of fire is not punishment, it is purification. It burns away hesitation, fear, and old dependence, leaving behind boldness, clarity, and divine courage. The moment it rests upon your shoulders, you will feel the shift. You will no longer move by emotion, but by assignment. You will no longer speak from uncertainty, but from authority. The mantle does not make you louder, it makes you truer. There was a chosen one, a teacher who spent years feeling invisible. She prayed to be used, but never felt qualified. One morning, as she spoke to a small group, her voice broke mid-sentence. It wasn't emotion, it was weight. Everyone grew still. She realized then that her words were not her own. The mantle had arrived. That day, what was once timid became powerful. She didn't change her tone. Heaven changed her presence. That is what the mantle of fire does. It gives weight to your words, strength to your silence, and vision to your walk. You will notice it in the way others respond, not because you seek validation, but because heaven's flame cannot be hidden, as spoken in the book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 3. They saw what seemed to be tongues of fire that separated and came to rest on each of them. This is your Acts moment. The same fire that descended upon the early believers descends again, not upon a crowd, but upon you. The difference is that now it burns not to prove, but to empower. The fire of the mantle is not only for your calling, it is for your character. It purifies motives, deepens compassion, and anchors discernment. What was once impulsive becomes intentional. You will find yourself slower to speak, quicker to listen, more aware of heaven's timing. The fire teaches patience as much as it teaches power. You may notice a restlessness first, a feeling that something inside you can no longer stay small. That is the mantle pressing outward, asking for expression. Do not resist it. Fire confined becomes smoke. Fire released becomes light. The angels stand nearby as you adjust to its weight. The messenger of strength ensures that the fire strengthens, not scorches. The guardian of purpose ensures that it guides, not misleads. Fire without direction destroys. Fire with divine order transforms. That is why this mantle came now, because heaven can finally trust your hands to hold it. You will start to perceive things differently. Words will carry new resonance. Atmospheres will respond when you pray. The same tasks you once did mechanically will now carry divine impact. It's not about new activity, it's about new anointing. Heaven has increased the voltage within you. In ancient times, prophets passed their mantles to the next generation as a sign of continuity. But this fire is not second-hand, it is fresh from the throne. It carries your name, your assignment, your era. You are not inheriting someone else's calling, you are igniting your own. And yes, fire will test you. It will reveal what is real and what is residue. But even in that heat, you will not burn. Like the bush Moses saw, you will blaze without being consumed. You are meant to carry visible evidence of invisible glory. Every time you feel small, remember, mantles are never given to the confident, they are given to the surrendered. Heaven does not anoint perfection, it anoints availability. This fire will also draw others to you, not to worship you, but to witness what heaven can do with a yielded soul. You will become a living altar, a moving flame. So, let it rest. Let the warmth replace fear. Let the light guide your steps. Let the purity refine your motives. The mantle of fire has found its home. You are not who you were before it came. You are the torchbearer now, the flame that will not flicker, the light that darkness cannot comprehend. The mantle will not fade with time, it will deepen. Every challenge will feed it. Every act of faith will fan it brighter, until your very breath becomes a spark that ignites hope. The test of obedience always comes after the fire. It is heaven's way of ensuring that the flame within you is not driven by emotion, but anchored in conviction. The mantle grants power. But, obédience refine purpose. Without obedience, even divine fire can lose direction. You are entering a sacred classroom now, not of words, but of choices. The tests ahead will not arrive with warning or explanation. They will appear in the form of decisions that demand trust. Sometimes it will sound like silence, sometimes like contradiction. Heaven will not always tell you why. Only walk. Obedience is not the absence of questions. It is the decision to move, even while questions remain. When you obey in uncertainty, you teach your soul to trust the one who sees beyond your horizon. There was once a chosen one, a craftsman known for precision. When heaven told him to leave his tools and go build something unseen, he hesitated. His whole identity was built on mastery. How could he leave what he understood for what he could not yet imagine? Still, he obeyed. Years later, when the new creation stood complete, his hands trembled. Every skill he once thought wasted had been woven into divine architecture. His obedience had built what intellect alone never could. That is the nature of obedience. It builds what logic cannot. In this season, heaven is asking not for sacrifice, but for sensitivity. You have already laid your offerings on the altar. Now heaven tests whether you will recognize his whisper amid noise. Sometimes obedience means waiting longer, sometimes it means moving sooner. Either way, it demands surrender of control. The Spirit reminds us through the book of James, chapter 1, verse 22, "But be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves." This verse pierces softly but deeply. Hearing truth is not transformation, living it is. Obedience converts revelation into reality. It is the bridge between promise and fulfillment. The test will not come in grand form, but in subtle crossroads, when your comfort collides with conviction. Will you choose convenience or calling, recognition or righteousness? The answer will determine how far heaven can trust you with greater authority. Heaven's tests are not designed to expose weakness, but to expand capacity. You are not being examined to prove worthiness. You are being stretched to hold more. The test reveals that your fire is steady, not situational, and do not fear failure. Heaven does not grade you, it grows you. Every act of obedience strengthens discernment. Every hesitation teaches humility. Even mistakes become training when your heart remains teachable. You may not see the full picture, but obedience is your map. Each small yes illuminates the next step. Think of it as walking through fog, only a few feet visible at a time, yet always forward. You will never be shown everything at once, because faith is not sight, it is trust in motion. The angels assigned to you watch closely now. The messenger of strength steadies your heart when obedience feels heavy, and the guardian of purpose aligns circumstances so that your faith does not fall on stony ground. They know that obedience is the gate through which every future blessing will flow. There will be times when others question your choices, when obedience isolates you, but the lonely path often leads to sacred ground. Abraham left his homeland. Moses stepped into wilderness. Even Christ walked alone into Gethsemane. Isolation is not abandonment, it is refinement. And when obedience costs you something, dear reputation, comfort, control, remember that heaven always returns what it asks for, multiplied in purpose. Nothing surrendered in obedience is ever wasted. Your spirit already knows the next instruction. Your hesitation only delays peace. When you move in alignment, heaven rushes to support the step. Doors that resisted before will now swing open, not because of strength, but because of surrender. This is the true measure of maturity. To act not because you understand, but because you trust. The test of obedience is never about the command, it's about the heart that hears it. Soon, you will look back and realize that every act of obedience became a cornerstone in the temple of your destiny. What once felt like restriction will reveal itself as protection. Every yes became a pathway for heaven to move freely through you. Obedience is not the end of freedom, it is its highest form. You are not losing autonomy, you are gaining alignment. The Creator moves through yielded vessels. And you, chosen one, are becoming one of them. So, walk forward with peace. Let obedience be your worship. Let trust be your rhythm. The test is not to break you, it is to prove that the fire within you burns steady in both storm and stillness. When heaven calls again, you will not hesitate. You will simply smile, step, and say, "I'm ready." The enemy always makes one final attempt before surrendering to your destiny. It is not a sign of defeat, it is proof of completion. Darkness fights hardest when light begins to break through the horizon. You may have noticed it lately, the sudden waves of doubt, the subtle whisper of, "Maybe this isn't real," the unexpected fatigue right after revelation. Those are not random, they are reactions. The enemy knows that once you stand fully in your calling, you cannot be moved again. This is the final attempt, a shadow stretching its hand toward a sunrise. It cannot stop. But remember this truth: shadows only exist where light already shines. The very presence of opposition is evidence of illumination. There was once a chosen one, a young man who felt heaven's promise burning inside him, but found himself surrounded by relentless struggle. Every time he neared breakthrough, something tried to pull him back. Fear, distraction, temptation. One night, after yet another setback, he whispered, "I'm done fighting." But then he remembered that surrender doesn't mean defeat, it means trust. He lifted his eyes, breathed deeply, and said, "Do what you will." Within weeks, everything shifted, not because he fought harder, but because he stood still long enough for heaven to finish the fight. The darkness is not after your resources, it is after your rest. It wants to exhaust you before you arrive. But you are not walking into this final test alone. The messenger of strength stands before you like a wall of fire, and the guardian of purpose moves behind you like a shadow of light. You are surrounded, not surrounded by trouble, but by power. It is written in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 8, "We are hard-pressed, but not crushed, perplexed, not in despair, persecuted, not abandoned, struck down, not destroyed." Those words are not simply history, they are heritage. They remind you that divine resilience runs through your spirit like blood through veins. You have been pressed, but not broken, refined, but not erased. This last resistance is the wind before the clearing, the tightening before release. Do not mistake pressure for punishment. It is simply the echo of what is ending. You might feel the weight of fatigue, now the kind that doesn't just touch the body, but settles on the soul. When that happens, do not push harder. Pause. Let heaven breathe for you. Sometimes victory comes not from motion, but from stillness. Even silence can be a roar when your faith refuses to bow. You have already won more than you realize. Every moment you chose peace instead of panic, forgiveness instead of bitterness, faith instead of fear. You advanced the kingdom. The enemy cannot comprehend a heart that refuses to hate. That is your weapon. And now, heaven invites you into a softer kind of triumph. Not the noise of conquest, but the quiet of completion. The final strike from the enemy is nothing more than a tremor before collapse. You are crossing the invisible line from battle to breakthrough. When you breathe now, breathe as one who has survived the storm and stands at the threshold of dawn. Look behind you, the ruins of your old fear. the fragments of old lies. Look ahead, the open field of your promise. Let this moment become a sanctuary. Feel the air shift. It is lighter now. The angels lower their swords. The war is closing. You are stepping into rest. Not because the fight has ended, but because you have mastered peace. If this word resonates in the deep places of your spirit, let your next gestures be sacred, not habitual. Like this message, as if lighting a small lantern in the distance, a quiet sign to heaven that you still burn with gratitude. If your heart feels compelled to share, imagine it not as sending a link, but as releasing a spark into the night for another weary traveler to find their way home. And if your spirit longs to remain in this flow of revelation, then subscribe not to a page or platform, but to purpose itself. Make it a personal vow that says, I choose to stay connected to the light that found me. Finally, take a breath and type softly in the comments, I still rise. Now, not to be seen, but to affirm the miracle you have become, to remind both heaven and yourself that darkness tried but failed to silence the light. This is not the end of your story. It is the awakening after war. The angels fold their wings, the fire steadies, and heaven smiles. The last attempt of the enemy has only proven what was true all along. You are unbreakable. Walk forward now, crowned with calm. The battlefield behind you has become fertile ground for your next harvest. Every scar gleams like proof that grace was stronger. You have endured, and because of that endurance, the dawn is yours. The crown is not a gift of gold. It is a revelation of identity. You were never meant to crawl through life wondering if you were worthy. The moment heaven called your name, a crown was set aside, waiting for your readiness, not your perfection. Now, as the angels lower it toward you, the air itself feels heavier. Richa, alive. You have not just survived, you have been chosen to serve. Crowning is never about display, it is about duty. Kings and queens in the kingdom of God wear their crowns, not as ornaments, but as assignments. The metal shines, yes, but within that shine is weight. Every jewel represents a battle won, a lesson learned. Esuanamel. The crown is proof that you endured without losing compassion, that you rose without forgetting humility. There was a chosen one once, a man who mistook calling for comfort. He believed divine favor meant ease, until he met trial after trial. When his strength finally broke, he thought he'd failed heaven. But in the silence that followed, he saw a vision, a crown made of fire resting on his head, burning yet not consuming. And heaven whispered, now you understand what authority costs. From that day, he served, not ruled, healed, not judged. That is what true coronation does. It transforms ambition into service. Your own crowning carries that same fire. You may not feel it as weight on your head, but as warmth in your spirit, a steady awareness that your voice, your influence, your compassion now carry more consequence. What you speak carries authority because it flows from refinement. Heaven crowns only those who can bear love as power, not pride. The Word of God reveals in the second book of Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8, now there is in store for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord will award to all who love his appearing. This verse does not promise luxury, it promises legacy. The crown of righteousness is not placed on those who never stumbled. It is given to those who kept standing, You have worn scars like medals and tears like incense. Heaven saw it all. The angels stand around you now in quiet reverence. The messenger of strength bows slightly, recognizing that his work in you has borne fruit. The guardian of purpose watches as the fire of assignment seals into light, a glow that no darkness can smother. You have become what heaven hoped, a vessel steady enough to carry glory without leaking pride. Crowning moments often happen privately. The world may not notice when it happens. You might be driving, praying, sitting in silence, and suddenly feel it, a wave of peace, unlike any you've known before. That is the coronation. Heaven prefers intimacy over spectacle. Do not look for applause. Crowns shine brightest in humility. The true measure of a crowned soul is gentleness, the ability to carry divine weight with human tenderness. You will notice that from this moment forward, words that once wounded you will no longer pierce as deeply. Opinions that once swayed you will lose their power. That's because authority has replaced insecurity. You don't need to prove what heaven has already pronounced. This crown also signifies responsibility. You are now entrusted to lift others who are still bowed beneath the weight you once carried. Your compassion will become the bridge others walk across. Each time you help someone rise, your crown gleams brighter, not in heaven's pride, but in heaven's pleasure. The crown is also a mirror. It reflects not just light, but truth. When you wear it, you see yourself differently, not as fragile, but as forged. Heaven crowns you to remind you that your survival was never luck. It was design. So wear it quietly. Let your dignity speak louder than your defense. Let kindness be your crown's sparkle. And remember, crowns are not meant to stay still. They travel where purpose travels. Whether you speak to thousands or to one, your presence now carries the fragrance of authority wrapped in grace. This is what being crowned for service means: to live as evidence that redemption wins, to walk in power but bend in love, to glow without boasting. The angels bow, not to worship you, but to acknowledge what heaven has completed. The crown does not change who you are. It reveals who you've always been beneath the ashes. The fire has refined. The obedience has proven. And now, purpose reigns quietly upon your head. You are crowned not for privilege, but for purpose. And heaven watches, smiling, as you rise, not above others, but among them, radiant and ready. The earth has begun to stir in response to your awakening. What heaven planted in silence has now reached its appointed hour. The two angels who once arrived in secret now stand visible in the spirit, one glowing like dawn, the other steady as stone. Their mission is complete. The moment you said yes has become movement. All around you, invisible threads tighten and hum. Purpose begins to ripple outward, touching places you've never been, people you've never met. This is how heaven works. One surrendered heart becomes a catalyst. One voice, aligned with truth, becomes an echo through generations. You are not only transformed, you are now transforming. The light you carry is not symbolic, it is substance. It moves through conversations, through small acts of kindness, through prayers whispered into ordinary mornings. You don't need to announce it. Real light never performs. It simply shines until darkness has nowhere left to hide. The angels watch as you step forward. They do not lead anymore, they follow. For now, heaven walks behind you, ensuring the path you take leaves a trail of glory. You have become a living flame in a world that has forgotten warmth. Every choice you make in alignment sends tremors through spiritual ground, awakening others who have slept too long. The earth itself seems to breathe differently around those who carry divine purpose. Creation recognizes its keepers. When you speak, the air listens. When you move, peace follows. This is not imagination, it is resonance. The same voice that spoke light into being now speaks through you, as declared in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 19. For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. That revelation has begun. You are part of heaven's unveiling, the moment when hidden ones rise and the earth sighs in relief, because light has returned to its rightful places. There was once a chosen one who doubted his worth even after miracles surrounded him. He asked, "Why me?" Heaven replied, "Because you would not use light to boast, but to build. The same is true of you. You were never chosen for applause, you were chosen for alignment." Now the two angels, strength and purpose, turned their gaze outward. They see what you cannot yet, the influence already stretching across cities, the hearts being stirred awake by your obedience. Your story has become a spark passed from soul to soul. Every act of faith you take becomes a seed carried by wind, landing where heaven wills. This is the fulfillment of every silent night you endured. Every tear you thought wasted. Nothing was lost. Every season of waiting was soil. Every disappointment, a hidden watering. The tree of destiny is blooming. Its branches heavy with fruit, you will soon see. The air around your life will change. Conversations will carry more weight. Even the simplest moments, sharing a word, offering grace, will ripple with unseen significance. That is how heaven expands its kingdom, not through spectacle, but through sincerity. And though the angels' task is nearly done, they do not depart. They linger at a distance, guardians of what you will now plant. Their wings no longer shield, they now spread above, forming a canopy of covering as you walk into destiny. There will still be challenges. Yes, but this time, you will not face them searching for strength. You will face them from strength. The difference between then and now is revelation. You no longer question whether you are chosen. You simply live as one who is. The earth is awakening to your light. The same sky that once seemed indifferent now bends toward you. Even silence listens. When future generations trace the moments that shifted history, they will find your obedience written quietly between them, not as a headline, but as a heartbeat. The mission does not end here, it begins here. The angels step back, the heavens open, and the sound that fills eternity is not applause, but agreement. All of creation whispers, "It is time. Walk forward. Radiant one, carry what you've been given into every shadow, every silence, every weary soul." The earth has been waiting for your light. Now, finally, it sees it rise. The angels lift their eyes toward heaven, wings folding in reverence, their mission fulfilled. They now become witnesses, watching the light you carry spread like dawn across every forgotten corner of the earth. And heaven smiles. The story that began in silence now sings. Every breath you take releases glory. You are the proof that obedience births transformation, and that light, once awakened, never sleeps again. And so, the journey finds its rest, not an ending, but a gentle turning of the page. Heaven pauses. not to close the story, but to let its beauty linger. The sound of angels still hums faintly in the air, a reminder that obedience never truly finishes, it evolves. You have become the continuation of everything written here, the living word, the moving flame, the light that keeps shining even after the voice grows quiet. You've walked through fire, surrender, and revelation. You've seen angels descend, promises unfold, and destiny take shape. Now you stand crowned, steady, and whole. The message no longer belongs to these words. It belongs to you. You carry it in your breath, in your choices, in the way you now see the world. You are the living echo of heaven's voice. If this story stirred something deep within you, let your next moments become sacred offerings of gratitude. Like this message, as though you are lighting a final candle before the altar of your own awakening, let that small act say, I honor what I've received. If your heart feels full, share it, not to promote, but to pass the flame. Think of it as sending a quiet ripple into the unseen, a spark that might find another soul still wandering through shadow. You may never know whose darkness your act will soften. And if your spirit feels drawn to remain near, to keep walking with these words, to hear what heaven might say next, then subscribe, not as a habit, but as a vow to stay connected to the frequency of light that has already changed you. Finally, when the silence returns, comment something that feels true. Just a single phrase, your way of telling heaven, I am still listening. The journey continues. The light lives in you now,